Hey y'all, it's Ranger Erin, and we're going to be talking today about cattails. So I'm so excited today to talk about cattails because they have been so useful to humans over the ages. But also, they're just really plentiful. So if we remember, those cattails really like to grow in wetlands. So those wetlands are the places where the soil just stays a little soggy for most of the year. So maybe around some creeks or lakes or ponds, or even just those low-lying areas that just tend to stay wet year-round. These plants love those wet areas. And again, they are so easy to find. Now, I said they're really useful to humans because part of the reason is that they like those wetland areas, so they grow really waxy leaves. And you can imagine that that makes great building material. So those waxy leaves would make them kind of waterproof. So if you were to build your shelter and you would make a roof out of all of those cattail leaves, they're going to be waterproof, so that water is just going to slide right off the top and you're going to have a nice dry shelter. Or maybe you're going to make a mat out of them, weaving them together for the sides of your shelter. Or even some folks have been able to make rafts out of weaving those cattails together. So really great building materials. We can also use it as kind of a paper, so laying it out flat and pounding it flat, or even shredding it into little pieces and then making paper that way. The seeds are really fluffy, so this is good tinder for starting a fire because they catch really quickly. A little bit smoky, but good tinder for starting a fire if you're ever stuck out in the woods. But also, they're soft and fluffy, which makes them a good insulator. So you could stuff a blanket or a pillow and it would be soft and it would be warm for you. And these plants also have many parts that are edible to us. But we don't want to ever eat something out in the wild, especially with cattails, because cattails tend to soak up whatever pollutants might be in the soil. And that means then you would be eating those pollutants. So you want to be really careful always and not eat those wild things, even though they may be edible to us. This plant is also going to have really long fibers that we're going to be able to kind of shred up and turn into a twine, or again, weaving them together, you can make a basket or even fabric out of this. Lastly, we never want to forget how important these plants are to the animals that depend on them. So especially those muskrats love eating all those cattails, and they're one of the ones that kind of keep them in check. So if cattails aren't kept in check, they'll take over the whole area and no other plants will be able to grow there. But because we've got animals that like to feast on them, they can kind of grow with a lot of other different types of plants. So really a lot of interesting stuff going on with plants and animals. We're going to take a look at the different parts of that cattail. We're just going to use it as an example and look at the different parts of a plant and seeing what it looks like in this cattail version. Starting down here at the bottom, of course, we've got the roots that are going to be down in that wet, soggy soil in those wetland areas. They would have a lot more roots than these. I wasn't able to get them all up. But then it's also got this very special thing that's called a rhizome. And this rhizome is going to be able to grow out, and then it's going to start totally new cattails that are going to be just like this one. So while these roots are soaking up all that water and all those nutrients from the soil, they're going to send them up through the shoot or this stem up to the leaves. It's also going to take what those leaves are giving us and send it down to the roots. And these leaves don't look like what you normally think about leaves. They're going to be really long and skinny, almost like grass, but it's not a grass. And they're going to be that waxy feeling. And then of course up here at the top, when this was a flower, it was green. And then once that green flower got pollinated, it turned into these seeds. And these are like those little flyers that we showed you earlier that will catch the wind and fly away and go someplace new and start a whole new colony of cattails. For your cattail hike, I want you to dress with shoes that you can get wet, because again, we're going to have to go to wetlands to see those cattails, so you want to have some shoes that might get a little bit soggy. Hasn't been too bad out here lately, but just in case, wear some shoes you don't mind getting wet. When you find those cattails, I want you to feel them. Feel that waxy coating on them, and then always what's really fun is to see those seeds and just kind of release some of those seeds that will fly away. And just kind of explore them as that building material, which is going to be our next activity. So when you find it, Depending on where you are, always ask permission from the land that you're on and whoever owns that land. But again, cattails grow strongly, and this time of year, it's going to be okay. We're going to harvest a few leaves and see what we can do to build them. So just maybe 2 or 3 leaves, and then leave the rest of the plant alone. For your activity, what you're going to be doing is you're going to have a building challenge. So I had you grab 2 or 3 of these long leaves, and I'm going to ask you to try and make something out of it. So I'm going to attempt to make a basket, but you maybe want to make something else. Maybe you want to use it as building construction for a shelter. Maybe you want to make a boat and see if it floats. Just go ahead and see what you can do with these cattail long leaves, and then you're always welcome to send that to me. Here is my attempt at a basket. I'm not sure it would hold very much, but it was a lot of fun playing around with those cattails and trying to weave them together into that basket shape. I might try and see later on if this will float in the creek. All right, well, thanks for joining me. I will catch you all next time.